Welcome to the Lexy Show, Fashion That Gives a Damn. This week I am joined by the sustainability copywriter, strategist, and content creator. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Alexa Pavan. So, can you share the story of how Go Green with Alexa began and what first inspired you to start sharing about sustainability?
Oh yeah. So I guess I started the account back in 2023. It was originally a different kind of an account. I was transitioning from my role of being a regular 9 to 5er to being a freelance copywriter. So I kind of started the account that way. And then I was like, this is not what I really want to share online. Something that is very close to me is sustainability and conservation. And that's always been a big part of my identity. So I was kind of like, I always wanted to share about that, but I always felt like I wasn't an authority on the topic because I don't know, I was making excuses for myself. And I basically realized that like this is who I've always been. I grew up in a sustainable family, so my background's a little bit different from most people when it comes to sustainability. I didn't really have like a journey of like not being sustainable and then becoming sustainable. I grew up in a family that really values sustainability and environment and the environment overall. So my parents are immigrants from Brazil, and growing up, we had a scuba diving business for 23 years. So I was very much part of that business, like working in the business since I was really young until recently when they sold it. And part of that was ocean conservation because you have to protect what you are going, people are paying us to take them out into the reefs and see our beautiful ocean, and we a huge part of that is protecting it. So that was just a normal, natural part of my life. And then we also composted at home growing up. And my parents grew tropical fruit trees. So it was just like who I was. So whenever anyone in my life who knew me in real life saw that I was doing this new account, Go Green with Alexa, they were like not surprised at all because it's
Mm.
100% who I am. And it's something that naturally works itself into conversations because it's so much of me. So
Mhm.
I decided to start sharing because I just didn't see people talking about sustainability in a fun way. I saw
Mhm.
so much doom and gloom around sustainability, or it feels like you're restricting yourself, or this is a lesser life, or, it's making your life smaller. And I think the opposite of sustainability. I think that being more eco-friendly actually expands your life and it gives you more liberation and possibilities. So I
Mhm.
just didn't see that aspect being shared as much. Like, thankfully now I do. Like, that's not uncommon, but I just wanted to show people how it's like really fun to do it too. And I think that there's a huge element of creativity when it comes to sustainability. That's how I see it, is like I'm constantly solving problems, but in a fun and exciting way where it's like also creating an impact.
Mhm.
So for me, it was like, I just want to share that with other people and show people that it's easy to interweave these habits into our normal life. And it's like so fun to make nature more part of our life again.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, I think that's such a good lesson too, is like so many people that are out there that are like, I want to be posting more, I want to be doing this more, but like what do I kind of have to stand on? It is like, well, no, you should post more. Like I think that that's such a great way of just getting started. Someone had asked me, she was in the fashion industry, or she wanted to start getting in the fashion industry. And she was like, how did you do it? And I was like, I just started like doing stuff. Like I started emailing people and I started, a podcast that later led me emailing people and talking to people later led to a podcast, which later led to, social media and whatever. But social media was kind of before that, but still, it was like, just go out there and if you're passionate about something and educated about something, like I think that's enough of a leg to stand on to like get other
Yeah.
people motivated and start doing it. And so I think that that's really inspiring and I think you're so right where it's like, I mean, we're definitely seeing a lot more of it, but like still there are so many I feel like haters out there that are like sustainability is boring or like and you can't
Yeah.
be doing this and being sustainable and it's like well a lot of the things you might already be doing in your life can be qualified as sustainable you're just like not realizing that you're doing it or that it is sustainable like it doesn't always have to be these like conscious changes that we're making it can just be woven into our life like you were saying.
Exactly. And I just want to emphasize that it's really empowering and expansive to do so. Like it's not like you mentioned, it's not boring. Like it's really fun to dig into these things, and also it's like there's so many aspects of it. Like even if you find one habit or one aspect of sustainability boring, I guarantee you there's hundreds other options out there and something will interest you.
Yeah. Completely. That's what I mean. I always, we'll probably talk about this more, but like that's always something that like I feel like encourage people when it's talking about like how do I get more into sustainability or like whatever is I was passionate about fashion and I learned a lot about the fashion industry being unsustainable. And so I, you know, took time and years and whatever to dedicating to that aspect of my life. And now that I feel like I'm very much so an expert in that, which obviously I still learn new things every single day and can be more sustainable. But now that I feel like I've like, kind of mastered that aspect of things. I'm learning how to weave sustainability into other aspects of my life and getting plants and making my home more sustainable and, carpooling and driving less and finding ways of like incorporating it into those other areas of my life that I also care about. And so I think that that's a great way of like kind of getting started and finding what you're passionate about because that's something that I've had conversations about too, where it's like, well, this is like so much work or like whatever. And I'm like, well, it's like really not. And personally, I find it like you said, like what we're saying is like, I find it fun. Like I find
Yeah.
doing this research or learning new ways that I can be sustainable, like entertaining. So it's like all about how we can make it more fun.
Yeah, and I think other people find it to be as well. Like I mentioned before, there's so many aspects of sustainability. So like if you don't think one thing like composting is that exciting, then you could look into community events or you can look into so many other areas that can be engaging, maybe picking up trash in your community or going to a beach cleanup. There's so many aspects that it's just like we can't just like throw it away. It's like saying that you don't like physical activity or you don't like
Hmm.
working out. Like there's so many kinds of workouts out there. Like that's a really broad statement to make. So like let's just try to apply that to sustainability and see like what works for you and what habits that you can incorporate. You don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do like 10 of them. You can do just one and just kind of keep building from there.
Exactly. Well, so as you mentioned, but when you're not working, you're scuba diving or you're rollerblading or reading or dreaming up new trips. So how do these kind of activities influence your creativity and perspective?
Ooh, that's a great question. As somebody who is creative for my job, that is in like something that I'm constantly thinking about is like how do I keep those creativity juices flowing? Because to be creative, at least for me, I need to be regulated. My nervous system needs to be like tuned in. I need to be calm. I need to be in a clear headspace. And that's what like nature and all these activities that you mentioned do for me because I need that like that calm and that space. And that's really what it is. More than anything, it's just like that deep breath. And that's what those activities just bring me happiness. I don't know, they bring me life, they bring me happiness and joy, and they fill my cup. And then because of that, I'm able to give and provide like free resources and constant like videos and things teaching people about these topics that I'm so passionate about. Because although I'm very passionate about it, it takes a lot of work to make all these videos and to keep up with the trends and to make sure you're reaching people and then on the other side of all that, like I don't, that's not even my job. My Go Green with Alexa account is not even my job. I'm a copywriter by trade. So I write for sustainable businesses and organizations. So I'm constantly writing, is what I'm trying to say. I'm constantly
Mhm.
being creative. And if I'm not, my mental health is not right, then I cannot be creative. So nature and being outside and or reading help me accomplish that. And I would and nature is truly so underrated when it comes to stress management. And I wish more people knew about that because like even just spending 10 minutes like walking outside can do so much for our bodies. And I just think that's just like another beautiful aspect of sustainability is that you become more familiar with maybe your community or just like adjacent green spaces that you might have access to and or you can meet new people in your community that are interested in these kinds of things. So I just think that there's it's such an important part of life that we've kind of been disconnected from, like being in nature in general. We can spend our whole lives inside nowadays, go from the car to the like to our houses and never really spend any time outside. So for me, like my happiness level really has to do with how much time I'm getting to spend outside.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, I think that that's something that's also super important where it's like oftentimes I'll have conversations with people or I'll feel climate anxiety myself and I'm like finding community or doing things that like get me outside. I mean, even for me, like it's LA unfortunately is not always the most walkable city. And so driving to like work, literally sometimes just rolling down the windows for me, I'm like, okay, this is like helpful. Like all of a sudden the air is cleaner and the sky is bluer and my
Yeah.
day is brighter and it's like genuinely being outside for like those few seconds or feeling the wind genuinely like helps me. And so I totally, completely know what you mean, where it's like I might have to drive those 45 minutes to get 5 miles in Los Angeles, but the window's down, like
There you go. I like that. That's like creating a space where you can, because like not everybody has the time. And I totally
yeah,
understand that too. Like there's a lot of privilege in being able to spend time outside or to have free time in general. So I totally understand that. I just think that like we can find those little pockets like you found with like rolling down your windows. And I agree. I love a little like jam set with the windows down. So like that's totally, I totally agree with that. And I think that's what we have to look for is like, it's not like finding an hour of your day to spend outside. Like most of us don't have that time, but like 5, 10 minutes or just
yeah.
windows down can do so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that was like a big thing on social media where it was like, I'm gonna go touch grass, but it's like
Yeah,
literally go do that.
actually,
Like
like
actually go do that because it could change lives. Like
there's sometimes where I'm so busy where I'm like, I don't even have time to spend outside today. And I'm like, I literally go say I live in an apartment complex. So it's like I don't even have that much. I don't have like a lawn or anything, but there's
Mhm.
like a little patch of grass I can go to. And sometimes I just go and sit and take off my shoes and just
Yeah,
sit there for like 5 minutes. And then I'll put on a timer for 5 minutes and then be like, okay. Or I just like go outside and look at my plants and spend some time like just nurturing them. And it's like it does wonders for my mood.
exactly. Yeah. Same. I live in an apartment complex and I'm very fortunate to have like a little balcony and I need to do it more often, especially because it's like literally never winter here. So I'm like, oh God, it's like 60 degrees. Like I can't go outside, it's too cold, but 60 degrees is not cold. But like I did it a lot more when I first moved here and then I like keep not doing it. But this is motivating me that I'm gonna go sit just in my balcony because that's a great way of being
Yeah,
outside. And there's literally like a little chair there and I can do my work and that's what I'm gonna go do. So
that sounds
I
great.
appreciate this motivation because it's helping me. So, again, as you mentioned, you've been around scuba diving for most of your life. And one blog you wrote really caught my attention, how to spot reef-safe sunscreen to protect your health and the future of coral reefs. So, I think that that's such an important topic because most people probably don't know that their sunscreen could be hurting the environment. So, can you
Mhm.
kind of elaborate and teach us a little bit about this?
Yeah, I want to first start off by saying that one thing we do is not going to change the world, right?
Mhm.
Like we are clear on that. I just want to make it clear that like by changing our sunscreen, we're not gonna like all of a sudden all the coral reefs are going to become healthy and
Right.
all those things. Like a product can never do that, right? And I just want to make that clear. But we can make better choices as consumers and we can be more informed about like the ways that our everyday products and the things we use just impact the environment and make better choices. I think that's my ultimate goal is just like is this the like this is not a panacea. It's not going to just fix everything and like you just put on this sunscreen and you don't have to worry about anything else like talking to your legislators or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
it's really I just like feel like people take that and they're like, "Oh, now I just have to do this and that's it." And it's like, "No, like I just want to make it super clear. We have to still hold corporations accountable. We still have to speak to our elected officials and tell them we don't like we want more regulations. We want there to be regulations on corporations to hold them accountable. But anyway, I'm getting off the soapbox for that. I'm going to talk about reef safe sunscreen. So, if you do want to use reef safe sunscreen, I think that's a great idea because even if you don't live near the coast, our waterways are all connected and everything ends up back in the ocean. So, even if you lived in a landlocked state, your waterways are still connected to the ocean ultimately. And even if it's not directly impacting the ocean because you don't live near the coast, you could be impacting your general the nature that you have in your area. So whether that's like you're bathing in a lake or you go into a river. So it's not just about coral reefs, but I love using reef safe sunscreen just because it's kind of like a cover all basis. And so to dig into it, there's two kinds of sunscreens. There's chemical based sunscreen and there's mineral sunscreen. And chemical sunscreen is more like absorbed by the skin. So it's a topical lotion that is absorbed by your skin because it's the largest organ in the body. The mineral sunscreen works differently. It's not absorbed by the skin completely. It's mostly not absorbed by the skin, and it kind of just acts like a physical layer on top of your skin. So I prefer mineral-based sunscreens because not only is it better for coral reefs, because there has been testing to show that mineral sunscreen does not harm reefs as much as chemical sunscreen does. They can put reef safe on the bottle or on the tube, and it doesn't have any like regulatory meaning. So
Mm,
it's not like something that, we can hold them accountable and say, oh, this is not reef safe because this, that, and the other. It's not a regulated marketing term. So it's not like a certified organic, which has a seal and has like a whole agency behind it and board to make sure that people are actually doing it. There's nothing like that for reef safe. So these companies, what they do is that they'll remove those two ingredients that, let's say, Hawaii has banned, and then they'll use like two other ingredients for their sunscreen, chemical wise. And what happens then is that they can slap Reef Safe on it
mm,
because, now and what that does to consumers is mislead them, and it's really just taking advantage of them and making them feel like they're doing something good for the environment, but they're really not, because this
right.
chemical sunscreen is still harming the environment. So the best thing to do is flip over your sunscreen, look for the active ingredients. And I have a post, I think you might have referenced it, about this, and it has like the different ingredients, but it's also Googleable. Like you could search this up and find out the toxic ingredients that are in, or the harmful, excuse me, ingredients that are in sunscreens. But basically, you're just looking for two ingredients as far as reef safe sunscreen, and that's non-nano zinc oxide or non-nano titanium dioxide. The non-nano is super important because non-nano means that it's not tiny particles, which means that it will actually sit on top of the skin rather than being absorbed by the skin. There is confusion too, because zinc oxide in the non-nano form is a common or sunscreen ingredient. So people will use zinc oxide, but that's not the one that's mineral. It has to be non-nano zinc oxide. So that's the part that can get a little confusing. And I'm not like, again, I just want to be clear that it doesn't mean everything to do that, to just switch your sunscreen and never think about coral reefs or the ocean again. This is just one tool in our toolbox that we can use. And honestly, it's better for us as well. I've talked to many estheticians and they say that they only recommend mineral sunscreen because it actually works better than chemical sunscreen. So I'm not an esthetician. You can take it up with them, but that's what I've heard. And I'm like, okay, so I have lots of reasons as to why I should use my mineral sunscreen. I use sunscreen every day. I live in Florida. Even if I'm out inside all day, but next to a window, I'm still wearing sunscreen every day. So if I'm going to use something so frequently, I better choose a better product. And also,
Mhm.
like, I rather support a company that cares and is taking the extra steps to do all that than supporting businesses that really just want to greenwash and take advantage of us as consumers.
Yeah, completely. Well, I think that that's a great point too, where it's like sometimes with sustainability, I feel like I have to kind of make it personal where I'm like, okay, but some of these things that I'm practicing in my life, yes, they might be helping garment workers who you're not seeing on a day-to-day basis, and they might be helping the planet and animals and this and that, but unfortunately, not everyone cares all that much about that. Not a bunch of people obviously do. Not
Right, right.
everyone does. And so I find that sometimes when I'm like, yeah, but did you know that this is actually better for you? People will be like, oh, wait, tell me about that. And then, because that's a conversation that my brother and I will have often because we're kind of like very similar and then opposites when it comes to like our diet and things like that. Like I'm a vegetarian, he's like a huge meat eater, and I'm like
Wow.
lactose intolerant, and he's like drink whole milk, and I'm like no.
You guys are truly opposites.
Opposites. And we'll like have conversations about it often. And I found that we were talking about something, and he has gotten really into plants lately and having a bunch of plants in his house. And that was something where I was like, oh, well, like I compost, and then like the compost makes this dirt, and then I give the dirt to my plants so that it's then like nutrient rich soil. Or like this is this thing that I just had a podcast with this company. It's very cool where you like put this like device that they've made in your shower while it's heating up, and it like saves the water that
Oh, I love that.
yeah, while your shower is still heating up, and then you can use that and directly like put it in your plants, and then it's saving you water and like whatever. And so I was like, these are things that like I'm doing and practicing or want to do and want to practice for my plants. And he was really interested in that because he's been loving his plants lately. And I was like, well, great. Like
Yeah.
now I've kind of like met him where he's at. Not to say he's very open to like learning and stuff about, we just definitely are like complete opposites in terms of diet. Everything else he is very open to learning about, but I was like, this is a great way of like I'm kind of meeting him where he's at in terms
Yeah.
of like you're interested in this or you care about how this relates to you or you care about like whatever the best product for your skin and the best makeup for your skin and whatever, where it's like, okay, well, now that I know that that's of interest to you, here's
Mhm.
how you can do this. And also, did you know that, this sunscreen won't do anything to hurt our coral reefs? Obviously, we need to still go out there and protect them, but at least we're hopefully not making the situation worse with our sunscreen.
Yeah. And actually, I find that to be true across the board. Like most of the time, if it's good for nature, it's good for us too.
Yeah.
So, just like you mentioned composting, I love talking about composting. It's one of my favorite topics. And I just always bring it up because it's like, okay, I know it might not look like it's benefiting you right now, but if you are not contributing to excessive methane being released from landfills, which is in turn helping your air quality and your water quality. So like your health is being impacted by composting.
Hmm. Yeah, completely. I think that that is it's just important to talk about. It's like that's kind of something that I feel like in my sustainable journey, I've had to learn a lot of like how to communicate sustainability and making it fun and entertaining or making it personal has been kind of the process that I've landed on because I
Yeah.
think that when when I can be like, oh, like someone's like, oh, I like your outfit, and I'm like, oh, thanks. Like I thrifted the whole thing and here's where I got it from, or like this is the brand tag if you want to look it up on eBay or like whatever, that makes it more fun, or like there's a story to tell about my outfit rather than just being like, oh, well, like thanks, I got it from Zara. And like
Oh my gosh, yes.
um
And here's the link. And so you
and
can have
here's
the
a
exact
link,
same
yeah,
one. It's like,
that I'm gonna
no.
yeah. And so I think that it makes it so much more interesting. And that's like genuinely a lot of the times also how I'll make friends with people is like when I'm out at an event or something and I don't know how to start a conversation, I'll just be like, I like your outfit. And then I
Yeah.
like when someone says it to me and then I'll be like, oh, thanks. Like it's from here and here and here. And then they're like, oh, are you a big thrifter? And I'm like, yes, like let's talk about
Locked
it.
in.
Well, yeah, and so that's the way I think to get those to get it across, but still make it, fun and entertaining.
I totally agree. It's all about finding that point of connection.
Yeah. Well, how do you help, I think, in this communicating of sustainability? How do you help sustainable brands to communicate impact without sounding too preachy? Because that's I think a big one.
Yeah. Well, in my professional career as a copywriter, I guess my take on it is, well, and I guess this applies to my work as Go Green with Alexa too on my personal account, but it's all about empathy. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of what you said is like meeting them where they are and not like not talking at them. I think that's like what a lot of sustainability or maybe environmental organizations or this area of business kind of can do that, where it's kind of like you should do this because it's either like preachy or dry, I think.
Hmm.
So, and I honestly I see more dry than anything because I feel like the preachy they already know it's good, so they're not even really trying to preach. We find a lot with like a lot of sustainable businesses that they're just kind of like unsure of how to move forward. And I guess I do work with more small sustainable businesses, so that's probably why they're kind of like wearing a ton of hats, and so they have a lot going on. So I just try to approach it with empathy and also like less jargon. I think that like you seem really preachy when everything is like jargon heavy.
Hmm.
And it's like no one really knows what you're saying. You don't really even know what you're saying because if you did, you wouldn't say it that way. You would kind of say in layman's terms for everyone to understand. So that's what my goal is always to simplify language and make and bring people to where they are. Like, just as a statistic, like most of the 55% of adults in the US read at a sixth grade reading level. So that's really important to keep in mind when I'm writing anything. Like, I'm trying to write to that level. And not to say that it's like, oh, I'm talking down to them or anything. Not at all. It's just like like you had mentioned before, I'm meeting them where they are. And
Hmm.
of course, over time we can build on that, and we can, and I'm never against like adding jargon, but then defining it. Like, I'm okay with adding the words that are of your industry, but then defining it and always defining it. Repetition is important, obviously, with like any marketing, but like this is like, it's important to just not get so caught up in one, like what you want to share, but think about what they are going to receive from
Hmm.
content, you know? And I think that it's a hard line to walk, but that's why it's good to work with professionals that do this on a daily basis, because otherwise, like, it's a lot of work to communicate effectively, especially about something that's not mainstream yet. Like, I feel like sustainability is like, it's kind of like on the precipice. Like, maybe in a
Hmm.
few years it's going to be like booming, like it's going to be in our face all the time, as just as like everything else is. But it's like right now it's still kind of like not mainstream. So we have to like walk that line of educating but also entertaining people. And that's where I come across. Like, it's like empathy, fun, and less jargon. Like, simplify that language.
Yeah. No, I think that that's really good advice. I mean, I think like for me, if when you start bringing up like these big words that I'm just like, I'm not going to listen as much. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. That's normal.
yeah. And so I think it's like, I was talking about how, oh, who sent this to me? I think it was literally my brother's girlfriend texted me being like, your brother is explaining football to me in Hamilton musical like wording. And
Okay.
she and she was like, and all of a sudden, I love football. And I was like, I'm obsessed with that. Like, that's so great. Like, show me how he's doing that. Because I'm like, then I could get my entire friend group who loves Hamilton the musical into football by explaining it in these terms. And so it's like, I genuinely think that, again, it's like the meeting people where they're at, where it's like, okay, if you're a fan of this, how can I explain this to you by talking? And again, where it's like, okay, well, my brother was interested in plants, and so I met him where he was at there and talked about the
Huh.
sustainable things that I was doing, but then how that helped my plants. And so we met in the middle at plants, but then I was able to educate about certain things in terms of sustainability. And it was like, we entered a flow state. So I'm just like
I love that.
I was
That's a
like,
good
I'm
example.
obsessed with this example because I relate to it because I love Hamilton the musical. And so that I was like, maybe if I just start explaining sustainability to people and like, oh, you really like I'm trying to think of like another specific thing. I don't
Yeah, that one's pretty niche.
It's super niche, really specific to my life because I love Hamilton the musical.
Yeah,
But
you're not wrong. It's like having them relate to something that they already love, and then seeing how, that's why I kind of try to always relate it back to physical activity. I don't know why. I just feel
yeah,
like that's, everyone's kind of on a personal health journey, I feel like. And for the most part, like, I think physical activity, people want to do it more, and or there's like a journey, right? There's like a
yeah,
journey for your health or that physical activity process. And that's how I see sustainability. It's like you can't do all the things all the time, just like you can't do all the workouts. You just
right.
have to pick a lane and get used to it, and then maybe you switch and try something else. Or it's like ebbs and flows. And just like you fall off on a physical health journey, like you will fall off on a sustainability health journey or a sustainability journey, but you will come back, and that's what it's about. It's like not like putting so much pressure on everything.
Yeah, I think that's so important to shout out to because it's like I feel like again, oftentimes with sustainability, I can get climate anxiety or I feel like I'm not doing enough. And I think a lot of people that are in this field feel that way too, or just people on our planet, people in our generation, where it's like, oh, well, what's the point of me composting if like this company in wherever is creating the same amount of carbon emissions that I would create an entire year in a day? And it's like, okay, well, I get that. I completely understand that. But I think it's like that's what makes me feel less anxious is when I'm like surrounding myself with community and I'm doing my, 5 things that I know I can do in a day. I'm turning off the lights after I use them. I'm composting. I'm shutting off the water. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And it's like those things give me peace of mind. But also sometimes I'm going to go out and I'm going to be dehydrated and I forgot my reusable water bottle at home and I'm going to have to buy a plastic water bottle. But just because, I skipped the gym that one day or ate that one chocolate
Hmm.
bar doesn't mean I'm, throwing it all away and not gonna do it anymore. And
Absolutely.
it's all a journey, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Well, I think kind of mentioned a little, but like you're always encouraging people to get involved in their local communities and government. What are some ways that listeners can start engaging locally for environmental change?
Ooh, this is a good question. Yeah, and as you mentioned before, that's how I feel too. If I have climate anxiety, like I honestly can say that I don't have it as much as I did a few years ago, and that's probably because I'm much more engaged in my community. And I also know plenty of people that are in this space that sometimes it helps to just to feel like you're not alone. Like I'm
Yeah.
not the only person composting. There are hundreds, thousands of people like composting. It's comforting to know that other people are interested and taking those steps too. So yeah, like ways that people can get involved with their local community. I guess it's going to differ from community to community, but like if you want to get involved specifically with sustainable events or like what I call them is eco events, I personally do like an eco roundup on my Go Green Flex account every month. I post like the first couple days in the month. I post all the free eco events happening in my area just to get people, acquainted with what's going on because there's a lot of disconnect. And people have told me that they're like, oh, I didn't know all these things were going on. And it's like, yeah, it's just because like all these organizations are doing things in their own little silos and they're not really connecting with one another. So it's kind of hard. Like everyone's spread out. But I think one of the best resources, and I think that this is available in a lot of communities that people are not even aware of, but community gardens is a good place to start. Like, so these are going to be like all sustainability or eco related, but like going to your community garden, asking if you can volunteer there, trying to volunteer with a local, like, I think the number one thing is finding what you're interested in and then finding an organization in your area that's in that area of passion that you have. So
Mhm.
like whether if you let's say you love dogs, you can go to a rescue, a humane society and volunteer there. And then they probably have events too that you can go to. And that's an awesome way to get connected and out network. Like I mentioned, the community gardens, there's food pantries and food banks you can volunteer at. I think a lot of it has to do with volunteering, which I understand also comes with its own privilege of having the time to do that. But I think that if you can, let's say you don't have a crazy schedule. I personally don't have kids. I make the time to do this and I consider that my like social time. Even though it's like volunteering, it's still time I get to meet other people, see other people, and like get out of the house. So I kind of treat it like that. And I think it's just like a mindset shift instead of seeing it as like, oh, I'm working, I'm volunteering. It's like, no, it's service and I'm meeting other people in during that service. So besides the Humane Society and Community Garden, and then also like finding organizations in your area, I would say getting connected online is one awesome way to do it because the great thing about this day and age is that a lot of organizations also have Zoom meetings. So like you could get involved even if you're not in that area. And if you just like have a passion, but maybe they don't have that organization in your close vicinity, then I think that would be a good option. And I think that once you start going to these events, you just start connecting with other people and then ask them what they do. And I think that's the best way to kind of just like that's what I started doing like a couple years ago. And now I feel like I have a really strong network of like I could ask this person what's going on, or I'm connected to this organization and then I could see if they're collaborating with another organization, or maybe we can set up a beach cleanup, or it's just like the possibilities are truly endless. It's really just putting yourself out there the first few times. It's going to feel hard. It's going to feel like kind of like, I don't know. But like once you get the hang of it, if you truly enjoy that topic or whatever you're you're doing for your community activity. It could also be like going to like farmers markets and stuff like that too. Like that's a good place to meet people and like
Hmm.
small businesses and like farmers and things like, so I think that like it doesn't necessarily have to be like a volunteering opportunity. I just feel like that's where I feel like very fulfilled afterwards. But like I said, like a farmers market's a great idea. Even just like
Hmm.
local businesses have, events all the time and they probably want you to come because, they want support. And I think that if you can't necessarily purchase from a small business, the next best thing you can do is support them by sharing on social media about them and or attending the events.
Yeah.
So like there's just so many opportunities that are both virtual and in person. And but I really encourage people to try to get out in person and to do these things. And there's also like separately from all this, like connecting with the community in a government fashion, like being involved in your local government. I think that's
Hmm.
really important. I don't think it's really talked about enough. And federal voting is great, but like I feel like that's the only election we care about. And besides elections, we need to still be engaging with the local government because that's who we're telling what we want. Like that's what's going to impact you first is like whatever's happening in your local government. Like for instance, right now, the coral reef that I grew up diving on, it just became an aquatic preserve. So like that's a huge deal where it's basically like now being managed by the state and it's being protected and it's something that hasn't happened before, which is so cool. But now they're opening up meetings to the public and actually there's a meeting tonight and there's a meeting tomorrow, but it's meetings to get the public's opinion basically on how we should proceed with management and get like feedback from everybody because these are people who in the community are divers, business owners, kids that like to go to the beach, anything, people who all recreate in this area, we should have a voice. And luckily we do. The Department of Environmental Protection in Florida is making it feasible by like creating these events and meetings for us to come out and talk to one another and then also talk to them and tell them what we want to be seen. Because I think that a lot of the pains that we're feeling in this day and age have to do with us like not engaging with our local government and then like our local organizations, our local small businesses. So I think that like once you start going out, you're gonna start seeing all these like random connections that like everything is connected and impacts one another. So if none of those other things interest you, becoming an engaged citizen through civic engagement is so important and it honestly makes a huge impact. And as far as sustainability goes, I think that's one thing that I would recommend to everyone is to just like start emailing your representatives, your senators, call them, explain why things are important to you and why it's impacting you as a citizen.
Hmm.
Getting off
Yeah.
that soapbox now.
No, that was great. I mean, I think that a lot of people wonder where to get started, and that was so many great examples. I think that that's something that I feel like I have been doing more is just like having these like random conversations. And because like I'll go to a lot of like, thrift stores or vintage markets or flea markets or anything like that. And it's like having a conversation with the like owner of the booth has led to like so many great conversations, so many great connections, where later I'll like be able to go and check out their actual like vintage collection that they have and other opportunities. But that was just an example that actually happened, or like making friends with them and stuff. And so it's like because I just kind of, put myself out there and was like, hey, so like, do you have a store? How'd you get into this? Whatever. It led to other things. And I think that that's something that like we don't do enough. We don't do as much as we used to. Obviously, like COVID happened, we're a lot more on our phones, we don't go out as much. And that's been a conversation I've been having a lot recently where it's like, I think that things are super accessible to us and they're arguably too accessible to us where we can go on Amazon or something and we can get it
Right.
delivered to our house the next day. But have we ever thought about the fact that like sometimes I can just drive down the street and or like look up the thing I need near me and find a store that has it and I for my boyfriend's birthday. He really likes key lime pie, and I was like, pie near me, key lime pie near me.
There you
And
go.
I literally found this like adorable bakery that's also a coffee shop. And because I had done that, and it was like 5 minute drive away from me, which in LA is like nothing. I was like, oh my God, 5 minutes. And now I have like a coffee shop that when my friends come and they love their coffee, I'm like, oh my God, like let's go to this fun little coffee shop. And had I not done that, I wouldn't have found the coffee shop. I wouldn't have supported a small business. I wouldn't have even known it existed 5 minutes away from me. And so it's like doing those things, I think, or even I think a really fun example that I've been seeing a lot of lately is like I've been really into like crafting and my friends are really crafty and instead of going to like, a Michael's or
Yes.
whatever store, I'll just look up like craft stores near me and there so many cute stores. And now that I just like looked this up, I've been able to go to so many cute stores or again, like my friends are super crafty and when they come into town, I'm like, "Oh my God, I have a place that you're going to absolutely be obsessed with." And so it's like not only is it supporting a small business and finding something new and learning my area more, but it's also objectively more convenient because I can literally,
Yes.
I don't even have to wait till the next day for Amazon. I can just go right to the store.
I I love that perspective so much, and I totally agree with it. It's like it's just a better experience all around.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why we got into this like sterile convenience culture of
Yeah.
like everything needs to be like, yeah, it's really boring actually. And I think
Yeah.
it's come with a lot of dissatisfaction, like human dissatisfaction. We
Yeah.
are just not happy and we're depressed because we're more disconnected from each other.
Yeah.
And I love that you like decided to look for small businesses instead of just like, yeah, going to a Michael's because that's
Yeah.
the easy route or whatever. But I think that that's all it is. It's just like taking a moment and like having some intention behind your
Mhm.
purchases, behind your choices. And I'm glad we're on the same wavelength with like, like not going to Michael's and going to like a local craft store. I want to also add to that. There's also like there's a place called Resource Depot near me, and it's basically like a secondhand craft store, but that also like has so many events, and it's basically like an upcycling station, but it's like a huge location. It's a nonprofit, but they basically it's like a workshop for you. So you don't have to like do things at home. You can go to this community place and do art together
Mhm.
and it's just so many amazing ways to get involved and experience your local community in a different way. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one other thing too to what
Yeah.
you said before, because you had said having to buy like key lime pie. I thought you were going to say buying a physical item. I was going to say using a Facebook Marketplace or your a buy nothing group is like one of the best ways to like meet people and like like get and kind of like just directly provide those goods to your community rather than like dropping it off at a Goodwill and
Mhm.
you don't know what's going to happen to it. It might end up in the landfill, whatever. Like this is going to somebody who's going to actually use it and or you might meet somebody cool in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with even just clothes. I mean, I have a very, very long process before I ever just like take something to a Goodwill where it's like because obviously I will always encourage you instead of just throwing something out to like, yes, take it to a Goodwill or something. Never throw out your clothes, please, unless obviously it's
Ever.
like underwear, but even then I have a better solution for you. But it's like I'll go through a whole process where I list things on secondhand sites, whether it's eBay or Poshmark or Depop or whatever, and then if it doesn't sell, I'll take it to like a Buffalo Exchange or a Crossroads or any of those places that kind of like they'll pay you for your clothes. And they're
Mhm.
much more curated, and so it's different than just dropping it off at a Goodwill. And then if it's still good stuff, but it hasn't sold or Crossroads, since they are super curated, didn't want it, I'll like make thrift bundles for my friends of pieces that I think that really like resonate with them and are their style. And all of my pieces are still high quality. It's just not necessarily my style or I haven't worn it in the past year. And then once I do that, and if they don't want it, then I'll take it to like I have a trashy subscription, which
Okay.
they'll like recycle it and turn it into like stuffing for your couch and stuff. And then if I ever take something to like a Goodwill, it's because I think it could be resold. But obviously, after my entire process of things, it's like it hasn't resold, but I still think it's a good quality piece. It's just like maybe not in style anymore, and that's why it's not selling. And so then I'll take it to a Goodwill. But I always like I organize the pile of like is this going to actually resell? If it's not going to resell, then maybe it goes to my trashy bag. But I think that that's definitely, I mean, you can do it like you were saying with like furniture and just things that you have. Or my
Well,
dog
too.
yeah, my dog is pee pad trained, and that's something that just because I lived in downtown Los Angeles for like a long time and it wasn't safe to walk her at night. And so she's pee pad trained. And so we always are buying freaking pee pads. And someone had just left a bunch because I guess their dog is no longer pee pad trained. And they just left it in the in our apartment complex. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a lifesaver. And I know in New York, there's like an Instagram account where it's for like things that have been just dropped on like the sidewalk. And if you want to go pick up something cool for free, like here's a good item. And so I definitely encourage people to, yeah, like be a part of that group. I just got a really cool, I've been looking for like a what's it called? A headboard for like ever that's like actually my style instead of just a headboard.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found a super cute one on Facebook Marketplace and I drove like 15 minutes and I brought my boyfriend and we had a little adventure and now we have a headboard. And so it's so freaking cute.
I love that. I
Yeah.
my whole apartment, my like everything, honestly, everything I have for the most part is secondhand.
Yeah.
So like I honestly love my furniture more now than I did when I bought everything new. And
Mhm.
years ago I didn't buy everything new, like IKEA or whatever. And I just feel like now I actually love these pieces rather than feeling like they're just functional. They're
Mhm.
just like, I've curated it over time and I love your process for clothes and like not just going straight to Goodwill. I love how you have a process and it's very selective and very intentional. And I think that if I wish I could have that process blaring into like all the Zaras and all the different
Yeah.
like all the fast fashion places, because I just want to be like, which we're really dogging on Zara, but I like all of them. I just feel
Good.
like, just like please, like don't first of all, don't throw it in the landfill because that's crazy. There's so many other options to get there before you get there.
hmm
So, please don't get there.
Yeah, I think even, I mean, before that process of getting rid of something, like two is the intention when you're buying something in order to, you know, hopefully not have to get rid of it immediately after you buy it, which often I feel like is our process now with like the rise of fast fashion and how we think about things and trends and micro trends is like
Mhm.
buy something because of the trend and then wear it once and get rid of it, unfortunately. And so I think like for me and this has been a journey and definitely did not happen overnight, but I feel very content in what I have in my closet. Like I go to thrift stores all the time because I find peace in thrift stores and it's like for me it's like that touching grass is like touching like the clothing racks at a thrift store. But I think like really when I look at a piece and I'm going to buy a piece, I'm like, if I leave here, is this something that's gonna like haunt me for the rest of my life that I didn't buy? Is this something that's practical? Am I gonna wear it all the time? What am I gonna wear it with? Where am I going to wear it to? Like for me, I really want the pieces in my closet to be, for the most part, forever pieces and pieces that I'm really going to take care of that I want to keep forever through every trend. And so because that's my goal, I feel like I'm very selective about the pieces that I buy now. And I think before even having to go through the process of like selling things and doing a closet clean out and whatever. And the only reason I feel like I have so much right now to get rid of is because I feel like I have so much stuff that I'm just like, I actually don't, I want it to be even more selective than it is now. But I think that we need to rethink when we're also just buying, not only how we're getting rid of something, but also like when we're buying it, how long are we going to keep that? Where are we going to wear it to? What are we going to wear it with? And so on and so forth.
I totally agree. And if we could all just do that, I think it would change everything.
Yeah,
It
it,
would.
it really would. We need to change our mindsets. We need to change we need to get out there, speak about legislation. We need to talk to these brands about changing their mindsets. But I think all of these conversations, lead to bigger and better things, and that's all we can hope for.
Exactly.
Well, I always, and I think we've talked about literally so many tips, but I do like to always end the podcast on what are your top like rapid fire tips for someone who's starting their journey to a more sustainable lifestyle.
Okay. So let's maybe start with easier ones and then get a little progressively harder. So easy low-hanging fruit habits, I would say start with like intentionality. Before you buy something, ask yourself, do I need it? What's going to happen to it when I'm done with it? like things like that, like before, and this obviously doesn't have to do with things like food and stuff like that, but I think even thinking about what the packaging is before buying it is important. I understand that like we all don't have the ability to choose a certain kind of packaging, but like if you're just like aware that's like, okay, when I'm done with this packaging, it's going to be thrown away, just being clear about that. Another tip is like refusing single-use plastics. So I know in California it's much better, but like in South Florida or in Florida in general, we have plastic bags everywhere. I know
Mhm.
most of the country does. So instead of going to the grocery store without, bring your reusable tote bag for sure. But, sometimes I don't bring it, I forget one, and I'm going getting just a couple items, and they always just put it in the bag, and I say no, thank you, and I literally ask them to take it out of the bag and give it back to me because sometimes I even say it to them before they even bag it, and then they just, instinctually and habitually just bag it, and I'm like, and then they hand me the bag, and I'm like, nope. So it's like really kind of just like those pattern disruptions, like refusing the single-use plastic, really becoming aware of how much single-use plastic you're using, because
Mhm.
that's really impacting the environment. And also recycling is not like a true solution for plastic. So like let's not rely on that. Let's focus on our consumption and bring awareness to like what we're using, what we're buying, and what we're throwing away. I would say from then it's like contacting your elected officials. I would say, calling them is the best thing, always including your zip code or your city that you're from, because that's how these calls are logged, at least for our federal representatives, as far as like state representatives and state senators, like that's what they're logging. Additionally, it's going to these community events, composting, finding a local composting service near you, I think is a great way to be sustainable and not break the bank. Also, it's pretty affordable. And also if you don't have like a composting service near you, maybe you have a community garden that offers composting. Some cities like in California, I'm sure that there's curbside composting available to, but I'm in a place where they don't have that. So if
Mhm.
you are also that place as a listener, like that's a good place to start. Also, just being mindful of resources, back to that awareness, turning off the water when we're brushing our teeth, turning off the water when we're washing the dishes, using the dishwasher instead of washing dishes,
Mm.
being like, not letting it run. I just see some people that consider themselves to be sustainable, and then I see them running the faucet, and I'm like losing my mind as the faucet is running. And I'm like, because I try not to be so imposing in my personal life and be like, sustainability, everything, because nobody wants to be around that person anyway. But, just being mindful of what we're using and how much of it we're using and our waste overall, like turning off the lights, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
It's like really just like being mindful of our resource management. Some other tips, carpooling, obviously is a good thing. Like if you can go down to one car per family, I would advise it. That's what we did. We used to have two cars. Now I sold my car back in 2021, and it makes life simpler. I also work from home, so if you work from home, that could be something you could do. There are so many other topics. I'm ocean conservation, switching your sunscreen, focusing on collection cleanups, like any kind of community cleanup. It doesn't have to be a beach cleanup or coastal
Mhm.
cleanup. Any kind of community cleanup is effective. And even if you're just going for a walk by yourself, it doesn't even have to be part of an organization. You can do plogging
Yeah.
where people run and collect trash. I like to do the plockling or whatever they call it. It's basically like walking and plogging, like, collecting trash while I walk because I'm not a runner and things like that. Like really just it's more about being mindful than anything. And then you add these habits onto your daily life, making things from home from scratch instead of like or going to a bulk refill store to buy your dry goods rather
Mhm.
than like just buying them in plastic bags. You know, it's things that are available to us, but they're kind of like hidden in plain sight. So sometimes like it's really just becoming more aware that these things exist around us. And even just like you mentioned, shopping secondhand, that's so impactful for the environment. And it's one of the easiest things we can do because honestly, a lot of the things nowadays are so low quality. Buying secondhand ends up being a better bang for your buck in the
Mhm.
long run. Everything's higher quality. Most of the things are higher quality that were, older and already used by somebody else. So there's so many advantages to buying things secondhand. Also, shopping small rather than shopping with mega corporations. So like again, bringing back that intentionality and also where your money is going is what you're supporting. So obviously do it within reason. Like don't it, we all have to like put gas in the car, unfortunately, and things like that. But just doing what you can with what you have available to you. And there's so many more, but I honestly can't think of it. So so you can find
Those,
it on my page, I guess.
yeah, exactly. Well, I think that those are such great tips. I think it's so interesting to me because, like, obviously I live in California and like we have the bag tax here.
Mhm.
And I've had situations where like people they'll be checking me out at the register or whatever, and they're like, "Do you have bags?" And I'm like, "Oh, I forgot them in the car." And they're like, well, you can go grab it. Like we have time." And I'll
Oh,
go and I'll like go get my bags. And then I go to Florida where my parents are living. There's no bag tax, and it'll literally be like one piece in a plastic bag. Like we'll have a ton of groceries
oh
and
yeah.
they'll put one thing in a plastic bag, and I'm like, what? What? Like the
That's what we're
amount of
working with.
plastic bags that get used
Oh
in
yeah.
just Florida is so crazy to me because I'm like, because there's no bag tax, so it's like it's just
It's
like
excessive.
whatever. Like we can just put the bananas in the one bag and like call it a day. And I'm like, no, 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 like first I'll try to carry as much as possible, or my parents, please bring your bag or whatever. But then if we like, have to use bags, I'm like, just stuff as much as possible into one. Like it's okay. Like I'll make do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And yeah, it's so funny to think about the different like perspectives of everyone in the country,
Yeah.
but definitely between us two. But like, I mean, everyone has a different experience, and that's why like I try to speak from that point of view, but also I'm in a fortunate and unfortunate position of being like in a place that does not prioritize sustainability like California does. So at least I get to tell people like there are so many ways to like
Yeah.
refuse it or like break that cycle because yeah, like people will just mindlessly bag it without even thinking. And I've already asked them not to give me the bag. So it's just like it's a whole thing. But
Yeah.
we persist.
We do. Exactly. Well, awesome. If people want to get more tips or just learn about what you're doing, what you're up to, or learn more from you, where can they find you on social media or anywhere else?
Yeah, on social media, I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me at Go Green with Alexa. And same thing for YouTube. I'm working on some long form this year, so catch me on there. And the same thing, Go Green with Alexa. And you can also find me on my website, gogreenwithalexa.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and chatting about sustainability. While you're at it, you can follow me on my socials. My Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are all my name at Lexi Silverstein. That's Lexy, silver like the color Stein. And remember to live a good life and look fucking good doing it.